As we close out 2025, something we have not seen in years is starting to show up across the GTA. More than 1% of all active listings on the Toronto MLS in the GTA, specifically 1.1%, now contain the words power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name. Now, 1.1% might not seem like a huge number, but in real estate, forced selling is one of the first and clearest indicators that financial strain is starting to build. Now, I'm not talking about a crash yet. I am talking about pressure, and that pressure is finally visible in the MLS numbers. In this video today, we're going to take a look at what a power of sale is, why they're starting to become so much more prevalent at this point in time, what parts of the GTA are experiencing the most power of sale listings, and why a power of sale purchase doesn't necessarily mean a smoking hot deal for buyers in Ontario. I'm also going to share a really cool tool with you that my brokerage offers later in the video, so make sure you stick with me until then. Let's get right into this. If you're new here, my name's Rob. I'm with Valerie Real Estate, and I break down GTA real estate data on a weekly basis on this channel so that you can buy or sell or observe the market with more facts and stats at your disposal. I'm not going for doom and gloom. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to take a look at what has happened in 2025 and see where we may be going in 2026. In Ontario, a power of sale is actually a mortgage enforcement tool. If a borrower should default on their mortgage by either not paying mortgage payments, not paying property taxes, the lender, as a clause of that mortgage agreement, has the right to take over the property to try to sell it to recoup those losses. So the lender evicts the borrower, they list the property for sale on the MLS, and they try to recoup any debts or amounts that are owed on that property through the sale to a new purchaser. Now, it's a very different process than what you see in the United States, where foreclosures are court driven, they're slower, those properties often are visibly distressed. In Ontario, you could be looking at a power of sale listing without even knowing it, because it goes back to the MLS. The lender has the duty to get as much money as possible, selling it for as close to market value as possible. And sometimes that involves, maybe even staging the property or making it look good, cleaning it up a little bit to sell the property for maximum market value. Over on wowa.ca, they have a great breakdown. So again, here, foreclosures. In a foreclosure, the mortgage lender will need to go to civil court to get an order of foreclosure, and the mortgage lender now actually holds title to the property. Big difference in Ontario, where title is actually still in the original borrower's name. It is just being sold by the lender. And now, since the lender owns the rights and title of the home straight up in a foreclosure, the lender will keep all the money from the sale. And if they do not cover the mortgage amount or the amounts that need to be paid off, the lender cannot go after the borrower. In Ontario, where we use the power of sale, the lender has the power to sell a property. But if there is money left over, excess funds do go to the homeowner. And if the sale of the home did not cover the mortgage and selling costs, the lender then can go after the homeowner. It's been a rapid climb to 1.1% this year of properties active listings that contain the words power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name. When you look back a year ago, it was 0.74% of all properties. And when you look back 2 years ago, it was 0.54% of all properties. So that is how we got here. But it's also, to be honest with you, an undercounting of power of sale properties, because like I said just previously, in Ontario, power of sale listings will show up on the MLS, but they may not always contain the words power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name. A lot of times it'll be corporations that will be listing the properties. It could be the actual bank itself, the bank name that goes on title. It doesn't say anything about power of sale or mortgage. Sometimes if it's private money, it just could go into that lender's name, and there's maybe a comment in the brokerage remarks or client remarks saying it's a power of sale listing, but sometimes they're not even there. So again, this 1.1% seems low. It is definitely higher than that in reality. And again, tracking that trend of where we are at around, 0.65% of all active listings containing power of sale or mortgage back in June, that has almost doubled up to where we're at now at 1.1%. So we can't accurately tell you exactly how many listings out there are power of sale, but I can definitely say with confidence that the floor, the absolute floor, is 1.1% of all listings. The power of sale activity that we are seeing now is largely the result of that interest rate hiking shock that we all experienced from early 2022 through mid 2023. If you bought a home at these, historically low interest rates, whether you went variable or fixed, on variable mortgages, you were seeing payments start to rise all the way through early 2022 into middle of 2023. If you're on fixed mortgage rates that you locked into in 2020 through 2022, those kind of 3-year and 5-year terms are starting to renew, and you're renewing into meaningfully higher rates than you locked into originally. And it's not just the end users that are feeling this, the people that locked into a low variable or a low fixed rate mortgage that saw their payments increase. It's also people that decided that, this ultra low rate environment is the time to start buying investment properties. If they were negatively cash flowing at the time they purchased it, that's only become worse and worse over the last couple of years. You also have, HELOC balances that are becoming painful to carry because that HELOC rate is tied to the overnight rate. You've got rising consumer credit balances. You've got just the persistent cost of living strain in general. In general, people choose to cut expenses elsewhere, or they're maybe forced to cut expenses elsewhere before they start going delinquent on mortgage payments. So really what we are seeing now is just the result of a tough last few years for consumers right across the GTA, and it's finally starting to show up in the numbers on the MLS. When you look at the regional breakdown of where the most power of sale listings are coming up across the GTA, I think it kind of speaks to some of the things that I just spoke about. When you think about it logically, the places that are going to experience maybe the most pressure are the markets that either saw the most run up in prices during COVID, during those ultra low rate environment days. It could also be areas where investors were heavily focused on buying properties and they are feeling the pressure. And I think when you look at the regional breakdown, it kind of backs up this train of thought. Here's the percentage of active listings containing the words power of sale or mortgage in the seller name per Toronto MLS, but we've broken it down regionally. So Durham, Peel, Toronto freeholds, then we have the GTA as a whole. And this is as of December 11th, so it's even a little bit higher than the rate that I saw in the December 8th reading. So it's at 1.15% now for the entire GTA. You have Toronto as a whole, so that breaks down the Toronto freehold and the Toronto condo segments. You also have York and Halton region. So if our kind of GTA total is that 1.15%, it's the Toronto freehold market at 1.54%, the Peel region market at 1.59%, and Durham region at 1.69% that are really pulling this percentage up. Surprisingly, it's not Toronto condos. That's really only 0.8% of active listings that contain power of sale or mortgage in the seller's name. As we all know, Peel and Durham region were two of the markets in the GTA that did see prices really accelerate the most in COVID. And they're also two of the markets that have seen prices come down the most from the peak right across the GTA. As for those Toronto condos, could have to do, like I said, with the fact that maybe people just aren't listing them as power of sale or mortgages. But I feel like if we're assuming that it's an equal share of properties using power of sale or mortgage right across the board, I think these numbers should hold pretty true. So you're not seeing a ton of that, at least not this much financial strain on the condo market from the power of sale or mortgage perspective at this point in time. Could that change in 2026? For sure. But markets like Durham region, Peel region, definitely seeing the most stress right now as per kind of this activity, looking up active listings containing these keywords. Even with this trend continuing of more and more listings containing the words power of sale or mortgage, more and more power of sale properties being listed on the MLS, I need to warn you that it does not guarantee you are going to get a great deal. And I think, again, WOWA does a great job at explaining why. Homebuyers might think that a power of sale home would be a great deal, but in reality, lenders are required to sell the home at market value. This is because any leftover money from the sale would go to the borrower. Discounting the home to sell it quickly is not allowed if it is significantly below its fair market value. For example, a power of sale in Newfoundland and Labrador cannot sell the home for less than 70% of its appraised value without a court order. Power of sale home buyers will also be purchasing the home as is, which means that the buyer will take the home in its current condition. Repairs that the home buyer would need to do can add on costs to the home, and it's likely that the borrower that defaulted on their mortgage might not have been able to afford to maintain their home. Mainly because the banks do have that duty to get as close to market value as possible to recoup as many funds as possible, because they do owe the difference to the seller, or the seller owes the bank the difference in these situations. You are not going to be getting a steal of a deal like you would see on some of these foreclosure properties that you see in the United States. With all that being said, who should be targeting power of sale properties? So first off, I think it's got to be somebody who's pretty cash strong. You don't want to be kind of stretching yourself on a mortgage, just understanding there could be a lot of other things wrong with this property. For instance, with power of sale properties in Ontario, a lot of the times the appliances in the home are not included with the sale of the home. There's a case where old seller could come back and have every right to take the appliances out of the home while you're living there. So, understanding you have to budget for maybe new appliances, also renovations or upkeep that the previous owner wouldn't do. So maybe somebody who is a handy person, who's maybe a renovator, might not be a bad idea. If you're looking for certainty and comfort, maybe a power of sale purchase is not for you. Who's it not suited for? It's those highly leveraged first-time home buyers. It's buyers who need turnkey condition. It's not always guaranteed to be turnkey. And anyone expecting kind of instant equity in the home Instant equity in a real estate purchase in Ontario is a bit of a myth. So, anyway, especially in these situations, though, I use the power of sale and mortgage keyword in a seller's name search to give us an idea of how things are trending in the GTA when it comes to power of sale activity. I'm not claiming to have every single power of sale listing accounted for in these numbers, but it just gives us that absolute baseline, that floor, that there's definitely 1.1% plus of listings that are available via power of sale. One really cool thing we're doing at my brokerage, though, is trying to build a more complete list for you. And if you want access to that list, scan the QR code on your screen right now. There's also going to be a link down in the description of the video. So check that out. Let me know what you think and reach out if you have any questions about any of the properties on that list. So to recap, we are definitely starting to see signs of financial pressure on the MLS itself in terms of the number of power of sale listings climbing. I guess the question now becomes, will financial strain be eased enough in the new year for this number to start coming down, or will renewals and this renewal wall be a big factor and big player in 2026 and cause power of sale listings to keep increasing on the MLS? I want to know what you think in the comments below. Let me know, are we about at the peak? Will we see things come down, or will we see things continue to climb in 2026? I hope you found this video informative and helpful to you. I really do appreciate you sticking with me right through to the end of the video. Until we speak again next time, please stay safe and cheers.